as long as you're doing things right, there's no reason things can't manifest themselves into more. You have to put in the sweat. You have to put in the energy. You have to put in the elbow grease. If you aren't willing to contribute your time, effort, and energy and resources into providing more for yourself, no one will do it for you.
I totally agree with what you're saying. Awesome. So we're recording. We're live with the man, the myth, the legend. Thank you for tuning into the KR27 podcast, the entrepreneur experience. Try to be like my boy Joe Rogan, so that's where I got the name from. So I'm here with my buddy Stephen. Stephen, how are you today?
I'm doing well, brother. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. I can't complain. Life has gotten a lot better. So I know that a lot of people want to hear about your story. Stephen you're 23 now?
Yep.
23, 24. You're younger than I think. So Stephen's 23, running a 6 or 7 figure company,
Close to 7.
Close to 7. 100% organically, right, Stephen? Everything you've done is organic. So, and a lot of people don't know, I've made a lot of friends in the marketing space since I started about a year ago, maybe a little over a year ago. And but Stephen is probably the longest friend and / coach / I don't know, a bunch of other titles I can put on the guy that's helped me out throughout this whole journey many times. So even though I have a lot of mentors, a lot of people that look out for me nowadays, Stephen was the very first one who started looking out for me and helping me out, and always thankful for that. Kind of want to have you share a little bit of your story today, Steve, with everybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously you're aware, and the people that, in the area that we actually connected originally are aware of my story. And, very bluntly, I knew at a very young age, I didn't ever want to be anybody's slave. I didn't want to be someone who was caught in the rat race within a corporate job, or even something more low key in the sense of like an hourly job, whatever the case may be. And I knew that the only way to get out of that rut was to take matters into my own hands. Whenever I was in high school, I started getting interested in learning how to do online services, because I knew that it was something I could do behind a computer screen, and not very many people would have the opportunity to object to my age, or, the fact that I was someone just starting in the industry. And the fastest way to scale for me was taking the superficiality out of it. And the only way to really do that is to offer more value than what you're being taken for face value. So I learned a lot through watching YouTube tutorials and connecting with like-minded individuals. And I started my journey in website design and SEO. So I was, building websites, and I was helping them rank highly in organic searches for local areas. And that started to take off within my local network in my local area. My family's doctors and whatnot are clients of mine, local businesses that are owned by family friends or friends, parents, whatever the case may be. Whenever I was in high school starting this out, decided to take me on, give me a chance, and kind of support my dream. And, ultimately I'm still living my dream today, but my dream has become something larger than I had ever hoped that to be. And that was creating, quite honestly, a very literal sense of freedom that traditionally many people my age don't get to feel. A lot of people these days are weighed down with college or student loans and, can barely get ahead. Very few people my age are in the position to be able to afford a home, let alone maybe an apartment or something, very reasonably cost effective to most individuals. And I'm very thankful that I've had the opportunities that I've had, and I'm very thankful that I've been able to be put into a position to add as much value as I have to other people in such a short time frame. But it all boiled down to my desire to not have to directly answer to anyone that was telling me what my time was worth, or what they were willing to pay me for my time. So I had to be able to dictate what my price was, and the only way to do that is to do something on my own. And then once I started to see the value in Facebook and Instagram ads after doing web design and SEO for around 2 years, give or take, I started to get into the Facebook and Instagram ad space, and I realized that there was a lot more potential with that than just websites and organic search. So I started to pivot more and focus on the Facebook ads, and it started primarily in helping those local businesses get more exposure, get more traffic, get more appointments, get more bookings, whatever the case may be that they were looking for specifically. And the fastest way I found doing that was in doing local brick and mortar Facebook ads. At that point, e-commerce was very undersaturated. At that point, e-commerce didn't have the promise to me that existing businesses just getting more reach had. So I didn't really start dabbling too much into e-com until a few years ago, whenever I realized that that had a lot more scalability. And that's something that you'll learn with age, is that what you think at one point will serve you well for one time frame, and as you have more and more perspective, you'll be able to let that perspective influence what your future perspective is, or in other words, what your goals should be, right? So my goal is to provide as much value to as many people as I can, and the best way to do that is to help people that are putting themselves in situations similar to how I put myself into many years ago, but in their shoes too. So say for instance, someone wants to pivot into e-com versus having a retail brand. At that point, they've effectively taken the cap off of their sales. They have removed a lot of their overhead if they're moving exclusively online. And at that point, they have effectively a pipeline that, if properly constructed, can be very fruitful. And my goal is set people up to be in the frame of mind to not only show them what is possible, but show them how to achieve it, and do it in partnership with me, where I can, be the one to add that value.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, man, you gotta. Yeah, Steve's out here like telling the whole everything right away. I like it. I like a couple of things you said right in the beginning, man. When you talked about, you kind of had that vision of, you kind of knew where you wanted to go at a young age, right? And obviously, not everybody has that look. I wouldn't say it's a luxury. Not everybody has that that mindset, right? That young sometimes.
Right.
Like I myself, I'm obviously older than you. I'm 30, and I knew I wanted to do more with my life. I always knew I wanted to do more. I just didn't know what it was, right? And it took a while for me to and even to this day, I just told you right before we got started with the podcast, like I've changed a lot of things, and I finally found exactly what I wanted to do. And one of them being this thing. I love talking to people, right? So that's really cool that for you, you got started pretty young. You kind of found that, not everybody gets that chance, and I think you would agree with me, just because me being like obviously older than you would agree that the age doesn't matter. What matters is making sure that you find what you love and do it before it gets later and later.
Right. And the thing that I've been speaking a lot on recently with people that are just close with me in general, or, people coming to me for advice, whether I know them intimately or not, is that you shouldn't live life finding things to try and regret. You should be living life trying to find things that you won't regret. And the only way to do that is to understand what you want. If you don't understand what you want, you're going to constantly be putting yourself in positions not knowing what outcome is likely. And whenever you're putting yourself into situations where what you want is a gamble, you only have a partial shot at getting what you want, which means that there's a partial shot, or a much greater shot rather, of finding yourself in a position that either you don't want to be in, you're indifferent about, or in a situation that truly doesn't benefit you. So you have to constantly be analyzing what it is that you want out of life. And I know that I did this with you, and I've done it with all my other coaching students. Day one, make a list of 10 things you love and 10 things you hate, and try and focus on the 10 things that you love and try and avoid the 10 things that you hate, because ultimately that's what gets you closer to being fulfilled and truly content with what you're doing. And, finding ways to turn the things you love into something that can tangibly become an asset to you, or not only that, it can become you can yourself become an asset to other people. And that's what I've done. That's what you're doing with this experience. And ultimately, I think you and I are both on the same page as far as understanding what it means to really leave an impact for others. And
Mm-hmm.
it can come in many forms. Just a person to talk to. You're obviously a very good student of mine, and I think that we've had a lot of great, meaningful conversations and offering direction and understanding more of how
Yeah.
you want to develop your opportunities and understanding how to allow your created opportunity through the creation of your own doing to extend that to others and show them what you can do for them. If
Yeah.
you aren't focusing on how to impact more people, you're going to constantly be focusing on how to impact yourself. And if you put yourself at the center of everything you do, it's a lot harder to grow in a meaningful way
Yeah.
because it's only ever going to be self-fulfilling. It's not going to be fulfilling on behalf of others, and that's ultimately how you grow.
I love that you mentioned that because there's been a few people in the podcast already, and I've noticed that from a lot of people that are very successful, um, like yourself, and I also like to say, like, this is something I want to make sure that, like, people that are listening understand is I don't base success in money. I base success in um, the fact that you guys are reaching the goals that you guys want to reach, right? And that's the biggest thing. Um, but you guys are doing very well financially. And one thing that everybody has said that's been in the podcast, which I love that you said the same thing as well, is when you're focusing on other people besides yourself, things seem to work out very well for everybody else. It's really funny how it works that way. And that's something I've also learned kind of in this journey is the more money people have, the less selfish they seem to be, which is kind of funny, right? It's like they're not really, like I've if you listen to one of the episodes I had with a gentleman named Connor, right? We were talking about how well he does and how he lives with such little amount of money, so little, right? It doesn't even like to spend money, like a very like me. I know you like to spend a little bit more money, but still, you're still
the difference being primarily that I have very little that I truly have time to enjoy.
Yeah,
so
no,
the things that I
I
have to do become my sources of enjoyment, right?
yeah. No, but
Multitasking thing.
but there's nothing wrong with that, right? Because at the end of the
No, it's
day,
not.
there's nothing wrong with how everybody wants to live their life. But what I do like is, regardless of you live your life that way and he lives his life this way, there's one thing you guys both do. You guys are always focused on trying to help other people. How can I help? Like, because I know from you, which is funny because he does the same thing, and a couple of other people I talked to as well do the same thing. How can I help more people live a lifestyle where they have freedom? Then that's the same thing you always do. I know you have a lot of sales, like a whole sales team, and you try to provide them everything to coach them and teach them how to sell and close clients and have that freedom, right? Because if you can go make $10,000 a month doing sales, for a marketing agency, and you work from wherever, and all you gotta do is work like 4 or 5 hours a day, can't beat that.
Well, you can.
Well, I mean,
and where the one opportunity to where you can make it better than that is that knowing that you don't have to lose your peace of mind through what you do.
True.
There are some people that live like that but earn money in very deceitful ways, and obviously you're aware of what I was going through today. So there's people that make money with very little effort because they are either unethical, they have no moral compass, and they just have no regard for other individuals that they are not necessarily putting in quote unquote harm's way, but you're creating what would considered legally be damages. But ultimately, those are the people that, tend not to have problems sleeping at night doing what it is that they do. I myself, being someone that doesn't get very much sleep, that those types of situations are never good for anybody, let alone, the people that feel like it's okay to do those things.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I mean, some people just don't care, man. And it sucks working mostly in this world that we're in right now, right? Like, you own an agency, I own an agency, a couple other people I know own agencies, and it makes it really tough to help people and have them trust us, because a lot of them have already been burned by those people that don't care, right? They don't care. They just take the money and they go.
Right. And it's a shitty circumstance, and ultimately I touched on that last year whenever I spoke with Jordan Platten on, I don't think he considered it a podcast back then, but our formal interview. The only way to make the digital marketing agency space better is to make everybody else better. Work collectively, don't work individualistically, because that's where you create divide. That's where you create an unnecessary sense of competition. There's businesses that are going bankrupt every day, and there's businesses that are opening every day. There will always be fresh fish to try and catch. The problem is whenever you teach the community that the competition amongst digital agencies is something that is almost artificial, right? Because there's really only a handful of good agencies constantly getting decent results, if not better. There's a lot of agencies that are complete startups that are looking for their first client, have no practical or tangible skills. But the thing that we have to remember as people who are in the positions that we're in now, respectively, whether it be your position, my position, someone in between, or someone far above me, or someone far beneath you, we all started at the same place, right? We all started as people seeking an opportunity to do better for yourself by doing better for others, or hopefully that's the intention, right? But what we have to recognize is the tangible skill sets can only come in practice. And if you're not spending your own money to put the proof in the pudding, if you will, you have to be spending someone else's. And there's people that are going to get burned left and right in business. I mean, people get burned every day in a bunch of different areas, and it's not something that I advocate. However, if, someone who, like myself, and I don't consider myself an expert ever, and you obviously know the reasoning behind that, but for the sake of the listeners that may or may not know my background, I don't ever call myself an expert, because I truly believe that experts are the last to know the newest information, because they feel like they have no need to become more educated in their respective field. Now, I'm always constantly learning, and you're always constantly learning, because you're always wanting to provide what's best, especially to the people that are paying you money and putting their financial situation in your hands. Yeah. So whenever you have that type of responsibility, you should feel it in your chest and in your head to do what's best for them, because if you can do what's best for them, they'll continue to reward you what's needed by you, which is some sort of financial compensation or some sort of support. So I always looked at this as a return on value added, right? So a lot of people start this business seeing that you can make a fair amount of money relatively easily and live life at your own pace, have a free schedule, have freedom of location where you can work from wherever, and have time freedom. You can work at the beginning of the day and at the very end of the day, and you can carve out the whole late morning through mid-afternoon to just do whatever you want and bullshit or whatever. Or you can be productive and treat it like a business and not constantly be trying to get away from working, which is why you started, or how you achieved that opportunity in the first place, right? A lot of people want to get in the hamster wheel to let it spin and see how long they can coast. And it's just not a good way to do business. And that's why a lot of businesses get burned in my mind. People start to push the button with scaling, right? They treat their first client like gold. Typically, they're going to lose it just because of the fact that they are ill-experienced or don't have the right theory in place to really try. Maybe they're unaware of what's going on in the space. Like right now, we have the iOS 14.5 policies and enforcement rolling out, which honestly is great, and honestly it's not. But this is one of those things where if we as marketers don't remain adaptable, we won't ever get ahead, nor will we be able to maintain. And that's what we have to constantly be enforcing on the newcomers to the space, is like, look, this is only ever going to be a changing industry, because there's always going to be different rules to play by, and ultimately trends are always going to change. The content that works today will not work a year from now. People love brands, but love seeing new brands. And if people aren't buying into your legacy brand now, they probably won't do it in the future unless you create the aesthetic, imaging, and message of a legacy brand. But every day that you live adds to your legacy. So you have to constantly be doing new things all the time. Businesses are very stagnant right now because of the lack of the lack of employees. They can't have people just run the ship. They don't have a ton of money sitting around unless they've been fortunate enough to get a PPP loan or, have a reserve of personal or business finances. And then you have the businesses that are barely hanging on by a thread and don't know how much longer they'll be able to be open, right? You have different degrees of business savvy, and you also have different degrees of financial savvy. And what ultimately boils down to a sense of personal responsibility goes by the wayside, because people will always find another reason to place blame on someone else. But very seldomly does anybody who's in a position of authority ever look at themselves as the problem, because they feel like they've led everything well until it isn't proving to be as good as it has been previously anymore.
No, I think you're right. Absolutely, and I like what you said. We had talked about this. You said this, like you said, you had said this in Jordan's interview once upon a time, which is we all kind of have to work together, right? And that's something a lot of people, they see so much competition against each other. And you said a lot of good key points there, a lot of good stuff that you're mentioning, and I hope that people are paying attention to what you're saying, because it really does make a lot of sense, and it really does. You really give a lot of value to that, but yeah, man, it's a lot of, like, I think the issue is a lot of people see each other as competition, which in a way, yeah, we're all competing against each other, but we're not, right? We still got to help each other out. And goes back to what I was saying, like, you know, every successful person I've noticed is always happy to share things and help out others and do other things. They never feel like they have to be, like, super selfish and not helping anybody out, you know? And it seems to come back. It's kind of one of those things that what goes around comes around kind of thing, right? And
absolutely.
And the less selfish you are, the better you treat others, the better you are more willing to help, the more success seems to come your way. I've started to learn that myself, you know, helping out a lot of other people for that past, I don't know, like over a year now. I've always reached out to people. I've always been like that person that's like, hey, if you need anything, you know, even though I'm not there yet, whatever I can do, I'm happy to help. And I've always been that way, and continue to be that way. And I mean, that's how we met. Almost, that's how we kind of became pretty close friends. Was, you know, I know you were going through some stuff. I think I talked to you about, I had a question about the way you were doing your process. You were happy to help out, and then I think you were going through some stuff at the time, and I was just like, yeah, man, if you need to talk, like, I'm like, you know, I mean, I know you don't really know me, but I was like, that's probably better, you know. I was like, you know, I'm happy to help out.
And so, to kind of touch on a point that you just said, you know, greed is a very unattractive thing, regardless of what the greed is focusing on, right? If you have people that are trying to take away your time just to waste it, that's greed. If you have people trying to take your money for no value in return or no value added, that's greed. If you have people that are trying to pull attention away from yourself, that is greed. You know, there's many forms that greed comes in, and different forms of greed that latch onto different facets and aspects of individual or communities' main focus points, whether it be, you know, cohesion. You see it in politics over the last several years. People are being greedy with the way that they frame current events so that it can fit their agenda. You have people that are more than happy to waste time, whether it be yours, whether it be theirs, whether it be, you know, any person of interest pertinent to whatever situation that they're trying to draw out, which is wasteful. People won't get time back. And then you have individuals that are just constantly asking for more money without any additional value added because they feel like they're entitled to it, which they're not. Why would it make sense to pay someone more for less work to be done? You know, and I feel like that's the situation that we collectively live in these days, especially in the United States, whenever people are collecting unemployment at the tune of $17.60 an hour to sit and do nothing. And then that's why we're in the labor crisis that we're in right now. You know, I'm trying to hire people all the time. A lot of people don't want to work because they're happy making unemployment. Well, it goes back to the old saying, you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. Yeah. People don't want to fish. People want to be handed a fish. And that's, I mean, at this point, if someone's self-motivated, even to just apply for a job, that's all the motivation you need. People will hire you same day, and they will ask you how much you want to be paid. But people are much happier doing nothing and collecting a set amount, and that's going to run out at some point. And people have to protect. Yeah.
Definitely. No. You're absolutely right. And I mean, dude, it's something I've touched base with a lot of people before. You know, I don't care what you want to believe in, but regardless, you don't have to be lazy. You know, and it's so much handouts given out, it's hard for for me. It's hard for me to see people not want to work because I mean I think you know a little bit of my story. Like I grew up here, seeing my mom not even speak English, start a business, and then worked. So it's like I don't. If you got two hands, you got 2 feet, dude. You got better than most people. You can work.
Right. And that's the sad reality of things is people are finding more and more reasons to want to not be able to work than to be able to work. There's a lot of flaws with ethics these days. There's a lot of flaws with work ethics these days. And there's a lot of flaws with what has become acceptable excuses as to be unreliable, acceptable excuses as to be irresponsible. I mean, think about how many different ways there are right now to prevent a pregnancy, or how many ways there are to, find a loophole, or how many ways to file a dispute, or, whatever the most basic things in life that people do on a daily basis tend to be. People don't want to be held liable or responsible for what it is that they've done or what it is that they intend on doing. And there's nothing wrong for people making mistakes every once in a while. But when you go out of your way to turn making mistakes into making consistent habits, that's whenever I find there to be a real issue. And I don't know if that's something that you agree with or most people that listen to this podcast will agree with. But ultimately, if you aren't taking ownership of your actions positively or negatively, what do you expect to get out of doing anything at all?
So you can blame it on somebody else, right? That's what everybody's doing right now. Blame it on somebody else. No, I'm definitely. I agree with you, dude. 100%. I don't disagree with you at all. I think that you're absolutely right, and it's just the world's really changed a lot lately, and it's hard to be even like my podcast is like called Entrepreneur Experience, but it's like it's hard to even be an entrepreneur nowadays, and actually that's probably something I've never even asked anybody. It's like so against you, mostly because people think, oh wow, that person makes 6 figures or 7 figures, right? And right away they think, man, they're making so much money. They don't realize that that's like in the middle, right? Like that's not the big money people, and those are the people that are always getting hurt, right? Business owners, man. It's like you think of a restaurant, they make 6 figures, but they end up having to pay a bunch of taxes, a bunch of stuff. The owners end up having to deal with that kind of stuff, right? Things like that.
And ultimately, it's one thing to look and be proud of the gross number. It's another to be proud of the net.
Exactly.
As long as you're doing things right, there's no reason things can't manifest themselves into more. And I think that goes back to the original talking point that you brought up, right? Is that the value that you and I add to individuals that we work with is more than they pay us. That's a good value proposition. That's why you retain them. If people are constantly being break even between the value that they add versus what they're being paid to add that value, that is a standard, but it's very hard to retain basic expectations.
Yeah.
Because people always want the most for their money, and that's how you have to operate. Regardless if it's now, that's how it was in the past, in what would be considered the olden days by your and I's perspective. Whenever you think back to the 50s, 60s, 70s, you got $1 worth of value out of $1 worth of spend. And today you're lucky to get half of that. And that's why I think that we have the problems that we do as far as entitlement goes and whatnot. People find money to be replaceable because it is naturally. However, with that being said, we are in a point in time where having things be disposable is not only an asset, but it's preferred. People like planned obsolescence. People like having the newest best thing because of the perception of having something new. But the question is something new that's costing you more money truly more valuable than what it is replacing? And there's nothing on this earth that quite honestly is worth replacing year over year without some massive detriment to what has already existed, that has already been put to use. The big thing that we need to get back to, and I'm a firm believer in this, and some people will agree with it, some people won't, we need to learn to be satisfied with reaping what we sow, because then that will teach people to sow more. You must or to reap more rather, you must sow more. You have to put in the sweat. You have to put in the energy. You have to put in the elbow grease. If you aren't willing to contribute your time, effort, and energy and resources into providing more for yourself, no one will do it for you. And expecting that to happen without any effort put into play or any skin in the game, you're only setting yourself up to be disappointed, because ultimately all that means is that you are having high hopes for very, very little effort. And the more effort that you put into things, you know this just as well as I do, traditionally the more you see out of it. But that's called an investment. It takes risk, it takes time, and it takes the right balance of things to take place in order to make that a positive outcome.
You know, I totally agree with what you're saying, right? And it's funny, you see all those little quotes on Instagram and stuff all the time, right? And it's like, it's one of those things where I've seen those little quotes where it says like, oh, sometimes it takes 5 years to get that 1 year that you've been looking for, right? When you take that risk, right? And it's funny because it's just those little quotes and stuff, but they're so true, right? People will stay hating something they like, doing something they hate, and then take that risk and try to go after something they would love to do, right? And yeah, it would suck because it would take, it takes sometimes it can take years. I'm an example of that, man. I quit my job. I've told you before, I was making close to 6 figures doing my job that I was at when I quit, and I didn't even know what the hell I was gonna do. I had no idea. I just I didn't want to do it anymore, and it was not like it was a bad job, but
a number doesn't provide the same peace of mind as being genuinely happy.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I think going back to the other thing you were saying as well is, I think, you mentioned a couple of things that you need to have, and I think the other thing that you need to have is you need to be a good person. Because like for me, hasn't been just about the investment with the knowledge, but it's like I literally just have taken time to talk to people, man. I'll message people. Like some of the people that are on this podcast, they're all financially doing way better than I am. But they're all people I can literally say that they're friends, right? Even though I have not even met you guys in person. And it's funny because I tell people, I'm like, you guys are all like tripping about like COVID and Zoom. I'm like, man, I've been living that Zoom life for a long time. we're all used to Zoom, man.
Yeah.
It's like, but it's funny because like I consider you guys friends, man. I
do too.
I barely even leave my house, so it's like, I can. But it's, yeah, man, everybody that's on these podcasts that I've interviewed so far is a friend of mine. I think there's only one of them. It was like my best friend George, who's the real estate investor. Him is the only one that I've seen in person, right? Everybody else I have never met in person. You guys are all doing way better than I am, and financially. But it's like, but I'm happy, dude, and I'm happy, and I've never hated you guys. If anything, like, I love that I can surround myself around you guys and like just learn from you, and like I've seen the growth in my, not just myself, but my bank account, and it's just continues to go, and a lot of it was just me being a good person, right? Me being willing to listen to you guys, talk to you guys, and like you said, it's a lot of that whole investment, right? And we have to put that time in doing those things, and like I said, the only thing I wanted to add to it was, I think, being a good person, because people see through that, man, and I think that a lot of the people I talk to right now, they wouldn't talk to me right now if they didn't see through that, And I don't. Sometimes I feel bad. Like I feel like people help me out. I'm like, dude, I feel bad. I don't want to take your time. I don't want to do this. I've helped out. Connor's helped me out a lot, dude. You've helped me out a lot. One of the girls I interviewed on here, Samantha, she's helped me out a lot. And sometimes I feel bad because I'm like, I want to get back to you guys. I want to give you something or something, And you guys are always so cool because you guys are like, nah, it's cool. Like, we're just trying to help out. And that's, I think that comes with being just a genuine person. That's not me bragging about myself or anything. That's just me saying that I see it in other people because I feel the same way, right? Like, I feel like I haven't quite made it to where I want to be financially. And I think everybody has that number, right? I haven't quite made it there yet, but even then, when I see people that are trying to do something with themselves, and if I can somehow give them a hand or something, I'm always happy to help. And you can see that in people. You can just see who people are. You can tell.
I think character is a very easy thing to read once you realize how much effort it's taken to develop your own character. The more you are self-aware about how people perceive you, the easier it is to find more people like you. And you'll notice what strangers compliment you on, like total strangers compliment you on, is a natural gift, because they're people that don't know shit about you, but can at least tell that one thing about you.
Yeah.
The other thing is the people that know you as almost an acquaintance level, right? There's going to be reasons why they want to reconnect with you. What is that reason? That's what they find attractive about you, your personality, your character, so on and so forth. The people that you find to be friends, people that you see maybe on a routine basis a couple times a month, why do they continually choose to be surrounded by you? And then you have your family that sees the good, bad, and ugly, that can point out your biggest flaws, but also your biggest benefits, or, you know, what makes you attractive to family, even though they're supposed to love and care for you by, you know, not necessarily by choice, but out of necessity.
Yeah.
And then you have people that become what I would classify as, you know, friends for life, something like that. There's going to be bonds that you form because you've gone through very developmental seasons in your lives together, or alternatively, you've gone through some pretty impactful moments of your life side by side or in congruency with one another, whether it be, you know, say for instance, you know, this is just an example and it's not true. Say for instance, my father died at the same time that one of my friends' parents died too. You know, it's two very extreme situations. Handling that similar situation together creates a better bond, because then you have a better understanding of how you can support, but also be more receptive to understanding what types of support that person needs.
No.
So you have to constantly be balancing those things, and the perception of you should not be a fixation. The perception of you should be something that you're getting organic feedback on, because you don't want to be misrepresented by asking people how they perceive you. You want those people to just come out and say it because they're proud of whatever reason it is that they have you around.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. You know, and I like how you broke that down. How you have different relationships with people, because it's true. And I've mentioned this in the past. You know, one of the episodes I've had is I mentioned how, you know, for me, I started, and like I said a moment ago, like a lot of you guys are just all, it goes like that saying, right? Show me who your friends are, I'll show you who you are, right? And that's what I've done, is I've surrounded myself with you guys because I want to, you know, be like you guys, you know. Yeah. And that's kind of like where I'm at, and I'm very thankful that you guys are like more than happy to like open your arms out and be like, yeah, all right, I want to help you out. But it goes back to also, doesn't mean that you don't appreciate, or doesn't mean that you don't care for people in your past, or people who are not at that same, I guess, mindset as you know. It's right. Just that it's different goals, different situations. And I like how you broke that down. It's like we can still be cool. Your acquaintances, you're over there, you know, you can still say hi to each other and talk. If you ever want to come to this side, more than happy, right?
Right.
It's and I like that, you know, because it's very true. And then you have people who you get really close to, you know, people who become like family, and yeah, and it does, and it's very true. Like for me, that's pretty true, you know, because I don't really have any family. I think you don't have much family either yourself, right? Here in the
No, the bulk of my family is all older. Now, as far as like cousins and people similar to my age, the gap is pretty wide. I think my closest aged cousin is, I believe, almost 7 or 8 years older than me. And then my next lowest is not local. They live in Miami, and prior to them living in Miami, they lived in Venezuela, like whenever I was born. However, by the time that we left, they were not born, and they're about 8-9 years younger than I am. So I'm kind of at this weird age where like I didn't have immediate relatives that were close enough in age to where I could be comfortable being that age, almost to a certain degree, where And that I'm very thankful for that, because I had to learn how to be intrigued on my own, or learn how to be intrigued by the things that people older than me were intrigued by, or alternatively people that were younger than me were intrigued by, so that I could have that dichotomy between, okay, how can I grow up faster to be more mature than people my age, but how can I also relate to people younger than me to kind of guide them and understand the perspective that they see, when, you know, I've clearly been through that age range too, but still be able to resonate with them at a level that gives me a sense of understanding how to help them too. And I think that as salespeople, in a nutshell, because we have to constantly not only be selling the representation of ourselves to the public, but also representing our services and how we can tangibly add value to people, you know, it ultimately will boil down to, how can you look someone eye to eye, the same way that you would train a dog, which is the most effective way to train a dog. You have to get down to their level. So like laying on your chest, looking at them in the eye, and just trying to get them to do what you want through signaling. All of the signaling that we do as salespeople needs to be at an eye to eye level, so that individuals can ultimately find the best way to connect with the people that they're attempting to connect with, whether it be for personal gain, whether it be through, you know, forming a business relationship, whatever the case may be. I find a lot of value in creating strategic business partnerships. I have a lot of value added not only to my business, but to the businesses that we assist, through bringing them on board to run their ads, whether it be Facebook, Google, Pinterest, whatever. Then you also have the people that are just good to know, good resources, because ultimately they're going to connect you with people that are helping them, maybe in different ways, or alternatively they can connect those same people with you so that you can help them, even if you're not helping that, you know, connection that you had prior, right? So finding and striking that balance is really integral to, one, not only being able to sell and communicate effectively, but it also lets you understand how reality works, right? If you can't add value to people, you shouldn't be wasting their time. If you can't help people, you shouldn't be wasting their time. If you can't provide someone an opportunity to get to the level that they want to be at, whether it be financially, spiritually, mentally, you shouldn't be wasting their time. Everybody needs help in different areas, but if you cannot impact someone positively, you should not waste your time trying to waste theirs.
Yeah, makes sense. I agree with you. I like that. And I like how you talked about it in different aspects, basically, not just one. But, you know, it could be business, could be physically, it could be emotionally, it could be any of those things.
Right.
So, yeah, no, that makes sense, dude. I like it. And there was something that you said, and I blanked out for a moment. Something you said that really caught my eye, and then I blanked out for a moment. Oh, I was going to say, you said you're from Venezuela, right? Which is funny.
Yeah.
You're the third person I meet from Venezuela who's successful, or fourth if I count my VA, because my VA is pretty cool. She's from Venezuela too. But you're the third one that I know that's very successful in the agency world, very successful in the business owners world, and find that very interesting. Find that very interesting because it's funny. All three of you are entrepreneurs, and I think it's because all three of you understand, even though you may not be out there, you understand how it is out there. And
I think that has something to do with it. I don't focus on it very much, but having
I don't think you do, but I think you just kind of, maybe it's just me, or maybe it's just coincidence, right?
It keeps your reality in check, because even though that's not the reality I have to live through, it is the reality that family members have to live through. It's reality that the country at large has to live through. You know, I forget what podcast I was listening to earlier today, but they effectively said that the dictator of Venezuela, at one point, the country was so starving that just to piss people off on live television, he pulled an empanada out of his desk drawer and just started eating it on live TV, not saying a word. To me, if that's how things were in the States, I wouldn't be here either. The whole reason my family left whenever I was a baby was because they didn't want to see it get worse, and especially get out before it's too late. Now, as shitty as this is, Venezuela's not a great place to live these days. Definitely not. but there are places in the world that are worse to live, and that's hard to imagine. So we all kind of speak from a point of privilege almost to have the problems that we do in this country. Now, we quite honestly have the privilege to create problems that shouldn't exist, which is it's creating more division than needs to be. And to be honest, I'm not one to promote division. I'm not someone who's very interested in creating divides for political gains, financial gains, whatever the case may be. I don't think that there's a place for it if you are someone who truly has a heart and mind geared towards benefiting people, because then those little superficialities matter very little, and to a point where they're so insignificant they're not even worth considering or trying to bring into consider. So whenever you take all that into account, ultimately what you're left with is, are you here to help people, or are you here to help people for a particular cause? And if you're here to help for a cause, at what point do you draw the line to where it doesn't benefit your cause? Because if you're doing it with that angle, you're only really doing it for yourself or to support something maybe mildly greater than you, but isn't great enough to justify helping everyone. And if there isn't a place to help everyone, you shouldn't be interested in partaking in it.
Yeah. No, you're right. And but yeah, it's just, it makes a lot of sense, you know. And like you said, it goes back to trying to help people, making sure that you're giving them something back, right? For them to be, you don't want to just take from people. You want to make sure you're giving back to people, right? That's
I'm a firm believer that there's something to be learned from everybody. And I don't think that there's a positive or negative thing specifically to look for in individuals, but I do think that regardless of what it is that you take away, there's a good way to look at it and a bad way to look at it. Now, even though there might be a bad way to look at things, that doesn't necessarily mean that the bad way to look at it is truly a negative. You know, and I told you this before too, but whenever I hear the word yes or no in any sort of negotiations, any sort of dealings, whatever, whether they be business, personal, or whatever, all those two words are directions. You know, yes, we're moving forward. Okay, we have our roadmap cut out for us as to what needs accomplished to get to the destination. No, we have to reroute. We need to figure out what the next most effective way to get to the destination is. And ultimately, and I know I've said ultimately a lot in this podcast, but I truly mean that, and this is for everybody's benefit when I say this, whenever you remove the attachment to what words perceivably mean to most people, you start to realize how logical words are. It's one thing to put a lot of emotion and meaning into thoughts and ideas. It's good for interpersonal communication. But whenever you're doing business, which you and I, that's our lives, you can't interject emotion into a machine that runs on logic, numbers, and data. You know, that's all stuff that is indifferent. You make decisions based off of factual information. You can't base information off of conjecture with no basis for making any decision.
It's funny you say that, because that's something that I've always mentioned. It's you know, I've said this to my girl and to family and everything. And I'm a very emotional person. I mean, you know me for a while. I think you know I'm a pretty emotional person. Right. But it's funny when it comes to business, I don't really put emotion to it, right? It's all logic. So what makes sense, what doesn't make sense. It's like the one time where I'm very, like, you know, very Stephen. Because Stephen is very logical. Stephen's a very logical person, man. And I will say, and not in any type of disrespectful way, and I hope you never
take no offense to whatever you got to say.
Yeah, I hope you take no offense, but Stephen is a very, very different individual. Very, very different, very, very logical person, very, very, he's one of the very few people I've ever met. You're very, very different. And I think that's what I think we get along, because you're very more logical, you're very more, like, you're forward, but everything with you is just, there's no feelings to it. Yeah. And I'm like a whole 180 of Steve. I'm all feelings, bro. I'm all feelings, right? And except when it comes to business. When it comes to business, I have no feelings. There's times me and you have gotten on the phone and talked about business. When it comes to business, It's all about numbers. It's all about logic, and that's the one time that like me and you are very, very 100% alike, and I think that's what we get along very well. Because when it comes to business, it's all logic, and I think because we're very opposite when it comes to the personal side. So I think sometimes the whole opposite thing kind of works out because we get along pretty well. We've had a pretty good relationship for the 12 months that I've known you. We've talked about everything and everything, but you're right about that. It's all about having that logic and thinking with your head and not your emotions when it comes to certain things, and trying to figure out what's, like if somebody says yes, cool, we're gonna move forward, so to know how is it gonna make sense, right? And that's just not just in sales but in life, right? And the other thing you said was you talked about the negative, right? Like making something into a negative, and sometimes it doesn't have to be negative, even though it's not like the outcome you're looking for, right? And I know I've used my own life, as that, and like I always tell people, like for me, the moment everything changed, and I mean no disrespect to my ex-wife at all, but when we got this divorce, and I went through that time where I was like very the lowest of my low, and then I got out of it, and then that was what made me quit my job. And that was the reason why I'm sitting here talking to you. That's the reason I've talked to those other people now, right? And all those things and everything. There's something, like last year I was like so struggling with the agency, and it sucked, and I was like couldn't figure out why. Then I realized I was like, and you guys have said it already, but I have to learn on my own. You just got started, dude.
Yeah.
We've been doing this for a long time, right? And even
it doesn't help that you had a lot on your plate. I've said that for as long as I've known you. You've been pulled in many directions, and I've lived through that same set of circumstances. The difference being, however, is that everything that I had done was intertwined for the most part, with the exception of startup ventures that I've been working on that are totally unrelated, but they have the brakes put on them for different reasons, whether it be the legislation is not conducive to the idea right this moment, the amount of money needed, or at least additional capital to get that rolling is unavailable at the moment, or only partially funded. And that just leaves me with the eggs in the baskets that are within my control, whether it be day trading, cryptos, whatever stuff that I control and I'm responsible for in my free time. The agency, which I quite literally breathe and bleed daily. The white label agency that is more or less self-sustaining at this point. All of these things feed together, and because they're related, they're easier to manage, but it's still a lot to manage. Whereas in your case, between brokering the life insurances and different financial planning opportunities that you provide through New York Life, or the agency, they were very disconnected until recently because there wasn't a strategy to connect the two. You effectively had what was two different legs that you could put together, but they were from different animals. Right?
Yeah, basically, yeah. Yeah, no, and then I had my daughter, right, which I was trying to take care of as a single dad, and then COVID happened and daycare was closed, so I had to have my kid at home with me, right? So it was a lot of and it was not any excuses, because I'm not making any excuses, because at the end of the day, you never, and I want people to understand that it's something that was a learning experience for me, and I hope that people understand that they take that as that doesn't mean that you shouldn't quit, because I still kept going. Right? Like I still kept going, even though I was all over the place. I was kind of messy, and then I was kind of trying to figure things out, and then and then I had my kid at home with me, and I had to help my ex-wife because she had to go to work. So sometimes I would keep my daughter here with me, right? Because she wasn't going with her grandparents, right? So it was like a lot of time it was hard to do anything. I couldn't take calls. I couldn't take Zoom calls because she was 2 at the time, so she just wanted attention, man. And it was hard. But you just keep going, just keep going, and it goes back to also another thing is everybody has their own journey, everybody has their own path, everybody has a different way to get to their end goal, and not everybody's goal is the exact same. Just because we all have agencies doesn't mean that our goal is exactly the same. Doesn't mean his business is going to be the same. right? We all should work together. I completely agree with Stephen, and I hope the people that are listening to this, that are agency owners, understand that as well, that we all should work together. And I know I'm in many groups now that everybody seems, for the most part, everybody seems to try to work together. For the most part. It's always those bad apples, right? I mean, you can't stop it. It's like anything else.
The thing that I don't know if we touched on this yet, but the real tangible value from working together is learning through others' experience without having to experience the learning curve yourself. You know, I can't, and for people that don't understand how Kevin and I met, it was through the Affluent Academy, where I hold a mentorship-esque position within the group. I'm the only moderator within it. I have had the opportunity to connect with a lot of people at a lot of different points of expertise through my experience over the course of many years doing this, when the vast majority of the group is individuals that are just getting into it or just seeking new insight to build on their skill sets. You know, I've had a lot of value added and countless opportunities to add value to individuals, and that's how you get recognition, by extending an olive branch to those that don't know they need it. If you're constantly worrying about getting something out of everything that you do, you will never be satisfied, because you will find yourself being worn out doing things that seem extra to you, that quite honestly should just come from you, from being the person that you want others to rely on. And it's not about being a resource so that other people always have to come to you. It's about being a resource because you want people to know that you're there for them when they need you. Because typically you don't ever think of a support system as being there 24/7. You think of a support system being there for when shit hits the fan. You don't always have to be in the line of fire. You don't always have to be in someone's back pocket. But whenever you are in someone's back pocket and they try and call on you for help, and you answer and you respond to them and you give them the insight that they need, and they do something tangible with it that gets them out of the position that they don't want to be in, you can have the satisfaction of saying that you helped get someone out of that unfortunate set of circumstances or situation.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. I think that makes a lot of sense. When we met in that group, I remember, like I said, I reached out to you for help, and that's how everything got started. You know, I remember I watched your video, and I was like, damn, this guy's making $50,000 a month or something like that. I forgot what it was at the time, and I was like, what is he doing? And I remember you explained the whole thing, and I was like, right away, I didn't even know you or anything. I was like, well, if he's doing it, I'm gonna do it. So I was like, I'm gonna do what he's doing. And I started thinking from that. And I remember you were saying, I would do this with the phones, and I would call like this and da. And I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna do it too then. Yeah. But it was funny, because then I reached out to you for help, and like, no problem. You were like, yeah, let me tell you, you do this, you do that, blah blah. Right? And now we're at a different point where, like, you know, you help me out with coaching 1-on-1, which is a lot different, but which I appreciate that, because I know you're freaking tired. You want to sleep like 4 hours. And for you guys that don't know, Steve still likes to, I don't really tell him this, but I think he has a control problem, so he doesn't want to let go of certain things in his agency. But he basically runs the entire business still by himself, like 90% of it. So
I do a lot, and I love what I do, and I'm happy to be worn out doing it. Now, does it get old? Sure, but then again, we are sitting here at 1:30 a.m. recording this podcast. I'm happy to be here nonetheless. I always have to find time to do the stuff that I want to do.
No, and I appreciate you. I appreciate you being here, because I was like, I actually, just so you guys know, I did tell him we could do this tomorrow morning, and he said, no, I want to do it now. I'm not gonna sleep. So I was like, all right, I guess if you're cool with it. I was like, I'll get up right now and do it. But I know that we've touched a lot of points. We talked about a lot of different things. I think there's a lot of value that you provided, and I really, really appreciate that, because we've kind of gotten off more of the subject of other things that matter, that are more important than just your what you've done in your career and stuff. But I do want to share with other people, like kind of like where you're at with your agency, and like what you're doing, and like what niches you go after, how you help out, clients, and kind of how you run your company a little bit. You don't have to go too much into detail, but just a little bit, if that's cool.
Absolutely. So what we have done over the course of the last several months is find the best way to streamline our overall service structure. So right now what we're doing is primarily Facebook and Instagram ads in tandem with Google ads. Reason being is you have this perfect storm of constant warm and hot leads being fed in from Google. Then you have the retargeting aspects from Facebook to continually draw them back to wherever you're driving Google traffic to. Then you also have the ability to pull cold audiences from Facebook as well. So you have this perfect synergy between the two systems in what we call the cascade system. So with that being said, our goal is implement and use the cascade system for e-commerce brands that are selling products online, services online, higher ticket items or specialty items. So that being said, that's the premise of what we do. However, the agency right now where it's at, we're constantly trying to grow the sales team because more sales equals more opportunities to add value to people. More value added means more income to the business, obviously, as a byproduct of adding that value. And effectively speaking, the kind of short-term goal, or at least what I would consider short-term goal before the end of the year, have a full leg of the business that's just basically fulfillment. Right now I'm working on building in people that I can trust, and like Kevin had mentioned before, I do have a bit of a control problem, just because I want to make sure that everything that we do has my seal of approval on it, because I started this business putting quality first before anything else. I want to make sure that we retain that same quality as we continue to grow and offer our services to more businesses across various industries, as well as more people of influence that may not find themselves to be part of a particular industry, but rather a person that just individuals are drawn to. So, to make sure that we can quantify and qualify everything that we do, I have to be able to pay attention to those things. And that's why I still participate in client checkup calls. That's why I'm in every group message with every client. The goal is to let them know that I am their best resource to getting anything immediately that they need. Does that cause a lot of problems with my schedule? Yes. Does it prevent me from getting sleep? Of course. But I'm happy to do it because that means that people can put their concerns to rest, knowing that it's being handled appropriately in a timely fashion, and ultimately for them to avoid the headache themselves.
No, definitely. I mean, I know it does take a lot of your time. You do get busy. Steve is to this day he impresses me a lot because his stuff is definitely like most salespeople, right? The more quantity, the more clients you're gonna close. Like that's just something he's always focused on, like anybody that does sales. But the other thing is he's always put his company focus on results, nothing else, just results. Like results from the moment I met him. And I think that's very, very impressive, because I know a lot of people that have scaled fast, but results was not the main focus, right? And I think that's pretty impressive. I myself still struggle with results sometimes, so I've had to reach out for help, and had, like now I have my cousin who helps me out, or if I really need to, I'll reach out to you. But I think it's crazy. And I think the other impressive thing is you somewhat have a niche, but you don't really have a niche. Like, I mean, Steve can literally get results for, I think that's impressive, dude. I mean, the fact that you can basically I can tell Steve, like, hey, dude, I have this trucking company that needs some marketing, and he'll be like, oh yeah, I can figure it out. That's
the best thing about our system is that I found a way to make it really work for any type of industry. We just have to obviously tailor the end goal specific to the outcome that you're looking for, not necessarily the niche. So say, for instance, you want insurance leads, right? Well, say, for instance, you're someone brokering commercial trucking insurance versus residential homeowners or something like that. The end goal is the same. The system's the same. The difference is you have to tweak and change the verbiage and creatives to whatever audience that you're trying to hit ideally. You also have to present the brand in a way that would resonate with those individuals. So your fascination with the ability to get those results it's kind of like a smoke and mirrors thing, right? it's not that we can just get results for any niche. It's the fact that our system gets results for any niche as long as we have a foundation of understanding of who it is that that brand is trying to look for. I think that obviously the goal is to be as comprehensive as we can. I mean, we offer pretty much any digital marketing service that any business could need, but our goal is ultimately tailoring what we can do across the board specific to their needs so that we can best equip the businesses we work with for the success that they're seeking through doing business with us. And the only way to do that is to make sure that, they have the proper assets in place to make that happen. They have the proper budget in place to make that happen. They have a responsive leadership team that's open-minded and, willing to listen to our ideas to make that happen. You miss any of those three components, you immediately have issues. And I think that communication tends to be a big place that clientele tends to fall through. They feel like they're not in the loop enough. They feel like they don't have a solid understanding of what's actively going on. They don't know where their money's going. They see sales, but don't know if they're attributable to you, or leads coming in and they don't know if they're attributable to you. Whatever the case may be, whatever the end result they're seeking, they need reassurance that what they're paying you is justifying what it's bringing in. And in this case, whenever it's results based on my end, how do we retain people? Great customer service above all else. I will never compromise that. Secondly, doing things in a timely fashion, because everybody wants to make sure that, things are reflective of the current situation or a near future situation. Then you have the individuals that are looking for, above pretty much everything else except for the communication, I feel, is the results and consistency of those results. If you can get results here and there, that's great. Your success will be as sporadic as the results that you offer. If you can find a way to make it measurable and consistent, like the way that we've engineered the system to run, it's going to create more longevity. It's ultimately going to make for happier clients. It's going to make for longer lasting clients, and it's going to make for clients that bring you referrals. That's how we've had a lot of our growth this year, is purely just based off of referrals.
Yeah. No, I know that. I mean, like I said in the beginning of the show, I mean, you're 100% organic, dude, which is pretty badass.
Yeah.
You've grown a seven-figure business pretty much on just organic and taking care of your salespeople really too, because you really do take care of your salespeople. I mean, it's pretty impressive how much you give them incentive-wise for the work that they do, as well as how well you train them and how everything's built organically. And I've learned a lot from you in that end. I obviously haven't mastered it yet because I've gotten past the six-figure mark, but still haven't hit my goal. Steve knows I have a goal this year. My goal is, what I say, 50,000, 60,000 before that year's over. That's my goal. So, but yeah, man, I think that's pretty cool, and I think it's pretty cool that dude, the way that you set up your entire business is just insane. I mean, very blessed to know the inside and outs for the most part. I'm sure he adds a lot of stuff for me, but the very basics of it. I think
there's a couple things that never really see the light of day. Just
the master doesn't reveal all the secrets. That's why.
It's not even about that.
I'm just kidding, Steve. I'm just kidding.
It's not even that. It's the fact that I don't know if some of these things are worth sharing. Like, I find a lot of things to be situational, right? So like a lot of my employees that don't perform, I'll keep them knowing that their situation's kind of shit. I wouldn't typically recommend that to anybody else, but I'm understanding of people's situations. I get told that, I have a big heart and it's very easy to take advantage of me, and I know that for a fact, but at the same time, I give the people the benefit of the doubt. I don't like to give people another reason to worry about something that they don't need to worry about. If my people are commission only for the most part, I have no reason to fire anybody. If they want to bring in a lead, I'm happy to have them. But I'm constantly going to be finding salespeople that are committed to helping grow the business, handsomely reward them for their efforts, and then ultimately, just build strong relationships with people, man. I know that you know this just as well as I do. Your network is a very powerful tool. Ultimately, your network can open a lot of doors, and a lot of those doors tend to be inclusive of some sort of financial benefit or ramification. You'll never know when you'll get burned, but at the same time, you usually know whenever there's something productive to come out of an interaction with someone.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, my network, I know for me, has become And I'm huge on this quote. I say this to my, I kind of consider him my mentor. Now, I don't want to say he's my manager, the guy that I work with in New York Life. He's, I don't know exactly how much he makes, but I know this guy makes like way over like $2-3 million a year, right? And he's always been big on like trusting the process. Trust the process. Don't worry about the results. Just trust the process. Keep going. Trust the process. He's been saying this crap for like to me for like a year. Sounds like Steve. And I'm like, all right, dude. And but something I told him was I am very big on my network is my net worth, right? And that's like something I mentioned earlier, like all the people that I have on this podcast, they're all doing very well financially, but they're also good people. They're not bad. I'm not gonna interview somebody who I don't like, who's rude or, they're all really good people, and they all act like really good people. They all want to take care of other people, and your network does become very useful and handy when you when you sometimes it's not even about needing things, but it's just about how can we help each other out, right?
It's not even just about that. I don't think. I think that the people that know you in a limited sense are more eager to help because you, as someone that's being seen as a resource, wants to continue to be seen as a resource. And unhelpful people are never seen that way. So you have limited relationships with people, and then they kind of prove their commitment to you and their character in a sense by being a reflection of, are they going to help you, or are they going to be someone that's going to push you off to the side just because they have limited interest in being of benefit to you. Typically what you'll find with limited relationships in that sense, whenever you have two parties that are maybe acquaintances and one asks for help, what you'll find is a stronger bond will come from that because of the fact that you have someone extending an olive branch whenever someone's in a shitty situation when they quite honestly have no obligation to. Now, the alternative to that is you can kind of tell whenever people are there for your personal gain or just have no interest, right? So, you have the opportunity to do that fact finding about people out in times of need, and typically you'll figure out faster in times of need than in more passive times where the need on either end isn't quite necessarily immediate, or more of a fact finding opportunity than anything else. It's typically distress that makes a big difference in reading character. And the amount of distress that prompts a response is what needs paid attention to, not just the fact that there's a need for a response in the first place.
Yeah, no, I I don't disagree with you at all. I think that you're absolutely right on that end, and I think that at the end of the day, you find all types of people out there, right? And you have to take those risks. Goes back to taking risks, right? You have to take risks, and you know that because, like you said, you've been burned before. We don't need to get into this, but when I met Stephen, he had just been burned, so we ended up being cool. I'm surprised he even trusted me when we started talking, because he had just gone through some bad times, and with some people that burned him, and I was just like, yeah, dude, I get it, I was like, I get it, dude. I was like, dude, they had the time, I was still going through rough times myself. So I was like, yeah, dude, I definitely understand. So now, what's your and I don't want to keep taking too much of your time. I was getting late out there, but what's your goals now with the business and with your, I guess your not a little bit of financial business and kind of like your personal. I know you always like to buy cars. Maybe you want to buy another car. I don't know.
I do like my cars. That's for sure. I don't really have financial goals. I have more service-based goals. So how many additional people can we help? Right now, my goal is to help a minimum of another 50 people by the end of the year. I think that's very easily achievable given the track record that we have for the last couple months of growth. I think that even just maintaining that, we should exceed the goal by a fair percentage. Now, there's going to be a lot of changes coming up within the economy, just the way things are right now. It's hard to avoid or understand how we have to react to the economy, given that we're rendering a service, right? So with inflation the way it's going right now, we might have to change prices. And if we have to change prices, then ultimately that could change the trajectory for our growth. If that's the case, then need to put some more thought into it. But alternatively, I find that it's going to be more reasonable to maintain prices where they're at, and in helping more people, we make up the difference. Now, that being said, there's more stress and effort that goes into doing that. However, with the system the way it is, and as rinse and repeat as we've been able to develop it, I think that just training enough people to start handling those clients is going to be great. Or alternatively, then just subcontract out fulfillment. Now that could hurt retention. So I'm very hesitant to do that. And I'd much rather have an in-house team responsible for airing the ads, because then I can still quality control everything. But ultimately, my goal is have a set standard for growth and scaling. I'm working on developing the exact intricacies of that right now. The goal for 2022 is going to be $500,000 a month in recurring revenue. That's the goal.
For 2022, you said?
Yes.
Okay, so that's it. That's your goal for beginning of next year or by the end of next year?
So once 2022 happens, at some point in 2022, I want to get to that mark, monthly recurring.
Got it. Okay, and that's it. And that's the gross income, right?
Yeah.
Got it.
We net a good amount of the income. I mean, typically speaking, between the 20% that I give to the business as far as, overhead, tax, everything as far as that goes, I give it 20%. That might have to change now with, President Biden's new tax laws, and who knows what else will roll out over that time. And then I allocate up to 40% in commissions. So all in all, whatever is the net remainder of the business expenses, and then the 40% that goes to myself or my team for fulfillment, we're going to be in a great spot. That being said, I think it's an ambitious goal. I think it's achievable given putting the right stepping stones in place right now and not having to backtrack to correct errors. But I would much rather set a longer term goal and set each step of the way up to it now, while this year is already kind of halfway done. Oddly enough, I mean, it feels like we blinked and it's already been over a year since the whole COVID situation started. So, time isn't slowing down, and this is something that I had this realization in high school. Maybe I was very young to learn this and come to this self-realization on my own. But whenever you're younger, an hour-long car ride feels like a whole day, right? And the older you get, the shorter or more realistic time feels. But then you get to this point in your life where you've been stressed, you've had routines, you have jobs, you have school, you have responsibilities, and time speeds
up. Real quick, just so you guys remember, Stephen is 23, guys. Just so you guys remember. Go ahead, Steve, keep going.
So as you're younger, time starts to speed up a little bit to reflect what reality feels like. Then you get more responsibilities, more life events that go on, and time starts to feel shorter. So, me being 23, I think I still have a good, say, 60 years left.
Yeah.
That 60 years is going to go by in a flash.
Oh, yeah, dude.
Because
absolutely.
Time already feels shorter now. So by the time I get to 30, I'm going to blink. The time I get to 50, I'm going to blink twice. And the time I get to 70, I'm going to blink 3 times. Time speeds up exponentially. And so with that being said, the time you think you have left is really a fraction of what it's going to feel like. So you need to make concerted, precise, intent-driven efforts now, so that blink of an eye is going to happen in a way that during the time that your eyes are closed for that split second, you've set everything up to be running according to plan by the time that time arrives.
Yeah. No. I agree with you, man. Time does go by faster and faster the older we get, man, and it just flies by, and sometimes people take it for granted.
They really do.
And it's I don't know. It just flies by, man. I mean, I'm 30 years old, and dude, I look at pictures. I told my girl all the time, I look at pictures, and it's like, damn, I was 20. I look like this. I look like that. I'm like, fuck, man, I'm 30 now. It's like, where the hell did this time go? Like, it feels like it was yesterday. And yeah, man, it's just crazy. So you gotta take advantage of things, and if you don't take happy and living a good life, and one of the other podcasts, Connor, we've talked about that. I know one of his the guys that works for Connor, really cool dude, and he tells me all the time, he's like, dude, I don't want to make seven figures. I don't want to make $100,000 a month. I don't want that. I was like, I'll be happy once I make 20. Once I make $15,000 to $20,000 a month, I'm good. I'm happy. And I was like, and it's just, that's cool. I think that's cool. I was like, find absolutely nothing wrong with that. I'm like, that is cool. You know what you want. Once you get there, you have that. And once you have that, and he's like, I just want to travel. That's my goal. I want to have a job where I can work remote and I can travel. He's like, that's what I want. Now at that point, I'm happy. And I don't disagree with him. I think that it's really cool. I think it's really cool. I'm actually gonna meet him for the first time this coming week, so I gotta go to San Diego. So I'm actually gonna come out to Pennsylvania this year, so I gotta come see you too as well.
I'll work on it.
Yeah. So I gotta come see. I got like 3 or 4 people who live in Pennsylvania who I gotta go see. So you're one of them. So I was like, oh, cool. Just gonna go make my stops. But I'm going there when it's not snowing.
Yeah, it's luckily the weather's holding out nicely the last couple of days since I've been home from my travels, but it is what it is this time of the year. Well, we have bears in the neighborhood right now, which is great.
That's cool. That sounds like fun. I just got my license out there too. My for the broker stuff. I just got license in Pennsylvania, so it's kind of funny. We got a client out there, so
I got you.
But yeah, so I really appreciate you being here today, dude. I really appreciate your time. I'm glad that you kind of got to share a little bit of the story. You got to. This is the longest podcast episode I have, honestly. So I might break it down into two. I'm not sure. Hopefully, people listen to the whole thing, because there's a lot of great.
Might as well leave it as one. Save yourself the effort.
Yeah, there's a lot of valuable stuff in here. So I hope you guys listen to the whole thing, because there's a lot of great things that you shared, and that I really appreciate you sharing. Glad that we got a little bit of topic of, you share your company, but I'm glad that we got a little more of topic, because there was really great things that you share with people, and I think that if you really pay attention, they can take something out of this. And now, if there's anybody that's listening that wants to reach out to you, wants your help, you want to provide some information where they can reach out to you?
Yeah, reach out to me via Instagram at StephenKommer. That's my Instagram handle. Shoot me a DM. I have about 100 some, but I look at them every day. So if I don't respond, that's not necessarily me avoiding you, but I just don't have the time to get to messages I don't see as a priority. So if you listen to this and put the KR27 entrepreneur experience as the first thing in the message, I'll make sure to click it as soon as I see it. And then, I'm always happy to be a resource to people. Like Kevin mentioned, he's in my one-on-one mentoring program. I have very limited slots as far as those go every quarter. They typically rotate. Kevin is someone who's doing it year round, so he always has a
I'm not getting out, guys, so good luck with that.
Yeah, so he has a permanent spot, but I have a handful that can rotate quarterly. Other than that, connect with me on Instagram, like I mentioned. My phone number that goes to my work phone is in my bio. And then if you want to book a one-on-one mentoring session, my Calendly link is also in my bio on Instagram. But other than that, I have LinkedIn and other stuff. I'm going to put a link tree together at some point here, hopefully over the next week, with all my socials in it. That way you can connect with me on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, whatever the case may be, whatever is best for whoever's listening to this. And I'm going to try and get more routine with my YouTube content, because I have so many videos recorded, but so little time to edit them and put them on.
We need to talk about that, because we'll talk about that on our one-on-one, because that's something I'm actually looking to do. But and if you guys can't get a hold of Stephen, you guys can just reach back out to me, and I can get a hold of him for you guys. So that's always easy. That's easier for you guys. And if you're a business owner who needs some, marketing, and I'm not someone that can help you out, I'm happy to, reach you back out to Stephen as well. I think that he's very, very valuable to a lot of people, both in the agency world and in the business world. And I know for me, more than grateful for that I got going on, and I finally was able to make those two legs into one leg for the same animal, so it's all working out a lot better now. So it's a great thing. So I appreciate you being here, dude. You need to get some rest. I know you're tired. I know you don't like to sleep, but you should probably at least get an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours of sleep. You should probably take a nap, and then drink some. And then you probably reach. I think you like to drink Red Bulls, right? That's what you like to drink. Or just coffee.
I can't do
coffee.
it.
Just do coffee, huh?
Just coffee.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, I appreciate being here, man, and hopefully I'll have you here again. Maybe by the end of the year, we can look at our goals and see where we're at.
It was an absolute pleasure, and as always, I value your time and your friendship. So it doesn't go one way; it goes both.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Thank you, man. Have a good one.
Yeah.